With the Lions, right, and I should have, could have, would have, in my own mind, when, Andrew, you're on standby.
Twice, I was on standby twice.
But we look at that red jersey as iconic, right? That's personally what got me into rugby in '97, watching the documentary. I know a lot of, I was going to say youngsters, people our age would speak about. Mate, you got that opportunity to go. Just talk us through the process. I think I know it, but when you're in the form that you were in personally, is it a case of like not expecting, but you devastated if you weren't picked, but then because you had a good chance of going, what was that feeling like of emotion when you got picked?
Incredible. Yeah, it was a strange feeling. It's like I've been dreaming of that for my whole rugby life, you know.
Genuinely.
What would it be like to play for the Lions one day? Yeah, it was amazing. So to finally get the call and have family members come down on the tour and experience it was incredible. Yeah, one of the best moments. I actually get goosebumps when I think about it, you know, how much joy it brought.
How did you get the call?
I got called. I was in the US with Ireland playing against the US and Canada, and Tommy Bowe had hurt his hamstring, and it was Joe Schmidt who pulled me to the side because he had just come in as Irish coach, and he was like, "Yeah, you've been called to join up with the squad, and congrats, mate. You leave tomorrow morning." And I was like, "Whoa!"
So you didn't initially get picked. You went into the announcement.
No, I played really well that year. I was in crazy good form, but missed a chunk of the Six Nations through injury, broken foot or something. And I didn't make the initial squad, but a week or 2 weeks later, I joined up with them again. Yeah, so got there in the end, but it was just one of the best experiences I've ever had. The crack that was on the tour, and there was a real good group of young lads who were around, and Australia for me was probably the best place to tour. Just because of the lifestyle, Sydney is beautiful, Brisbane, you get to go up to Noosa, the kind of surfer towns, and experience the country for what it is, and it was incredible. But the rugby, the country gets taken over with rugby immediately. The fans, the Lions supporters following the bus everywhere. Every place you went, it was just a sea of red. And to be involved in a part of it and feel that buzz around rugby was incredible. So
we saw the clip from the tour when you've had to roll the dice and phone your coach.
Yes.
What did you do to have to roll the dice? Because you then claimed to be Munster captaincy, right?
Yes.
It's a great clip.
Yeah, I told Connor to kick the ball out in one of the games against the Rebels
That was
or
it,
the Wallabies, and he did it early. But a few of the committee, the fines committee, come up to me and one or two of the other younger lads, sat us down at the table, said, "Lads, we need some ideas for the dice rolls." And one of the ideas I gave was, make them call their head coach, or and then they adjusted it to make the call and asked to be captain. And I couldn't believe it. I was sitting back at the back of the fines, like waiting for the court session to be finished. I'm off scot-free, and next minute I got fish hooked up to the top, and my heart sank. The fear, but the crack came in the end.
It was great.
Came in the end.
It was great viewing, wasn't it?
Some of the punishments were wild, and a lot of them didn't make camera, and you wouldn't want to be doing them.
What was the worst one?
Don't say it. Yeah.
What was the best one?
I fucking can't remember. I remember the worst one. I'll tell you off camera, but the best one. I'd say my one probably turned out well. Another one was a silent dance for a minute and a half, and Christian Wade and one or two others had to go up and dance in front of the whole squad and some staff members of the hotel to no music, individually as well, it was tough work but funny.
Wadey had pulled that off there.
Wadey pulled it off well. Yeah.
So no music, just stood
no
there.
Music, and you have to, and if you get booed off, you were going to be fined again.
Oh my.
So it had to be good. Tough job.
Yeah.
And will that crack go on this tour as well, do you think?
I'd imagine
a bit of that. You need some of that on a long tour.
Andy Farrell, he gets it. And I suppose now, life's moved on as well, hasn't it, in terms of banter and drinking and all of these kind of buzzwords that was part of the old game, and the professionalism's come in, but you need that. It's a group of men that need to kind of gel as brothers.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 or 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So you need them kind of, I don't know what you call them, levelers or...
Well, you need a tall joker, don't you? You can be the butt of the jokes.
That was my role. That was my role. 2013, got the phone call from Graham Roundtree. I remember it. It was a Matt Hampson Foundation.
Tell us about it.
Matt Hampson Foundation. event in Birmingham. I'm walking there, phone goes on the blower, Graham Roundtree. He says, where are you? I says, just walking to a Hambo event. He's tight with Hambo, and it's like, mate, why are you ringing me? He said, I just want to give you like an early heads up, like keep yourself in decent shape. Because really you shouldn't do that, right? You didn't really know what was going on. But back then there were a few early heads up, weren't there, about who was going. And I said, just tell me. He said, get the Colskins to book their flights. I said, all right. So the Colskins all booked their flights via Hong Kong. And it's because Paul O'Connell was injured. Like he had a bad back or a hamstring injury, so there was no way he was making the tour. So not that I was going ahead of Paul O'Connell, but there was
technically that's what it was.
Yeah. There was a free space, and I was on fire. I was on fire that year.
Yeah.
Took Ireland to the cleaners, got a man of the match.
Did you beat Ireland that year?
Beat Ireland that year.
One and only time.
Beat Italy that year as well.
The big one.
The big one. 2 MOMs. I am on fire. Gloucester captain. Life doesn't get better. Kovskins all working in the factories. Life savings. We're following Jim to Australia via Hong Kong.
Are his mates from home.
You know, salt of the earth, just getting back to, you know. So this is my way of them being mates with me through the thick and the thin. I was going to get them tickets to the test match. Watching Munster play, because Paul O'Connell's come back. Didn't think anything of it, weren't thinking, well, you know, if Paul's fit that I'm not going. He steals a line out in the game, misses 9 tackles, gets man of the match. So I'm not thinking anything.
Big Jim's still going.
Get a message off Graham, plans have changed somewhat, and then obviously team gets announced, Ian Evans gets picked. Obviously Paul O'Connell goes, and gutted, I can't even say, not that, you know, when I spoke to Graham or I spoke to whoever, it was like, you're probably midweek.
Who cares?
I'm
Be
like,
happy with that.
Ideally, less pressure. I am midweek monster.
Yes.
I'll go out there as no issue. Test match, nah, forget it. Yeah. And then it was, mate, it was tough from there because I ended up needing shoulder surgery because I was leaving Gloucester to go to Montpellier, and the Lions would have paid for the shoulder surgery for me to go on the tour, then get the surgery, then go to Montpellier. But Montpellier were like, look, if you're not going on the Lions tour, you need to get your surgery done before. So I ended up having surgery at the end of the season. 2 weeks later, it was meant to be a 3-month injury. 2 weeks later, I'm playing for the Barbarians in order to be on standby against the Lions in Hong Kong after drinking for 2 weeks solid.
Tough man, that.
One arm, I missed 5 tackles.
Well, that's a good day.
Yeah.
So you are a Lion, technically?
So basically, I'm a Lion.
They basically played against the Lions.
Yeah. And I was
sorry, for the Barbas. Sorry, no, you're not a Lion.
No. So, no, I'm not. No, I am. In my mind, I am. But I remember that game in Hong Kong, and I'd made be a dick of myself, and Gatlin couldn't even look at me. I missed like 4 or 5 tackles. I had one arm.
You like that though?
Again, it's like, but I could do that.
Yeah.
It's midweek monster. Couldn't lift my arm up.
No.
Went to Montpellier, shoulder was buggered for a year, then got sacked off from there as well. So that's how much
the
it
French
meant
life.
to me. It did. Yeah, but that's how much it meant to be a Lion.
Does
and like even now, when I watch the announcement, and we're all, well, you're not, we're long time retired now, but I'm genuinely buzzing because there was a conversation, wasn't there, that the Lions was outdated and the game had moved on. But you look at the interest of the athletes, it's everything. So whether or not you're Henry Pollock at 20, or you're at the other end, like a Bundy Aki who's been before, or you know, or an Alan Wynne-Jones on the tour before, he's been on 2 or 3 before. It's everything. It's iconic, right? The red jersey.
Crazy, yeah.
For a lot of players, it's once in a lifetime. Isn't it? Right.
Well, everything needs to marry up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Form, injury.
Yeah. Some players get 2 or 3 shots at it. You know, if you're, but that's the top sort of 2% of the players, I reckon. Whereas for a lot of players, I was on standby twice. 05 and 09.
Really?
Yeah, I got my letters at home. 05, I was glad I didn't get called up to that tour because Clive Wood would ruin that one over in New Zealand. But 09 would have been great if they'd have picked me instead of Rog. You know, I wouldn't have chased that kick and taken out the guy in the air.
You wouldn't have got to it.
I wouldn't have got to it. So we'd have drawn the test. We'd have drawn the test series and then gone on to the last.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, that's a great point.
They messed up, didn't they?
You know, the last tour, right? So see, the last tour we did a thing, right? And it was during COVID. There was no fans in the stadium. We did a big event before, and Goody's caught live on YouTube, right? And it was meant to go out there as a piece of content that he can't see like someone like Mornay Stain coming on and kicking now. That's like an old story that's been told.
I basically said Mornay Stain was way past his
Way
sell-by
past
date.
us, yeah.
And if I said if he has to come on early, then the Lions are winning the deciding Test match. Yeah. He comes on with about 4 minutes to go and slots the winning kick to win the series.
Mate, and they did this video at the end where it goes to him like we're talking. We've got beers in the hand. Goody's like this talking, saying, "Yeah, if Mornay Stain gets on, the Lions are definitely winning." And it's like, and the kit goes over and it's to you. Look, it was absolute gold.
Brilliant.
And Mornay Stain, let me know about it.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
So much jeopardy on them though, isn't there? Like they're always close.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like you're not. I don't think anyone can go there and be like, "Oh, it's going to be easy for the Lions."
No.
It's going to be.
Some of the midweek games will be routes, I reckon. But it's all about the Test series.
Yeah.
You get to those 3 tests and it's on like Donkey Kong, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And you remember the last, as you said, the last one was behind closed doors, COVID. This one is the first one for 8 years where fans can go. And Australia, as you know, Australia's an unbelievable place to go on holiday, on tour.
Yeah.
People go travelling there. It's going to be an epic 6 weeks.
So lads, my Lions team, my Lions selection,
15 Irish players.
15, yeah. No, I've gone, my front row that I've picked, I've gone with Ellis Genge,
Yes.
Dan Sheehan and Will Stewart. Look, I think that's a beefy, good ball carrying front row. Obviously Dan Sheehan and Ellis Genge, the standout ball carriers there, but Will Stewart to add a bit of solidity. Maro Itoje and Tyg Byrne in my rows. There was an argument for Tyg in the back row, but I think he's better suited to the second row in particular, just with the way Andy Farrell likes to play and have his back rowers on the edges. I think people like Josh, Henry Pollock and Jack Morgan.
Hang on. We've sold him the dream, haven't we, with Henry Pollock? How have you put him at a starting 8?
Because
he's played 1 Test match.
Because I think his ability is incredible.
The Leinster game
Yeah,
is
it's
completely
'cause
ruined every Irishman.
I agree. I think the X factor, all with Henry Pollock. I think his ability to turn a game up, and he's played in plenty of big games. Plenty of big games. He's played against the Irish national team in Leinster, pretty much, you know.
Yeah.
And he was probably arguably the best player on the pitch. Every time he performs, his stock seems to go through the roof, and I'm a huge admirer of him. His speed, his nastiness, his ability on the ground, tackle ability, run ability, everything. I think he's the complete back rower, and I think the sky is the limit for him, and I'm very excited to see him do his thing in Australia, and I think he will be the starting 8 for the test.
There we go.
Big
It's
shout.
a big shout, it is.
Yeah.
I'll put him on the bench. To be fair, I think he'd be a great impact player, but I just worry about, with your back row, the line-out options.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we might change it up. Who will we put in there? Ben Earl. No, he's so fucking tiny.
But that's I think the one issue with the Lions, which I've seen, and we'll talk a bit about Doris, is number 8.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel. That's why I was surprised Tom Willis didn't get a shout when Ken and Doris went down, just because he's an out-and-out 8.
Yeah.
Look at Harry Wilson for Australia, out-and-out 8, hard yards, ball carrying. That they've
Pete
all
Samu
got.
as well might come in the mix.
Pete Samu as well. It just feels like number 8 is the one position the Lions are probably struggling at. The fact
Exciting selection though.
That is an
Oh, mate,
exciting,
it's an exciting one, but the fact that
yeah.
you're putting Henry Pollock at 8. When was that time he wore 8 on his back?
Leinster.
Yeah.
Did he wear 8 on his back for that?
Yeah.
That's what he's just got. The one game.
Yeah.
One
Well,
game.
he was
Maybe
happy
that's
because
enough.
he's a Munsterman.
Yeah, he was very happy that day. Oh, he posted
But maybe
every
that's
after
enough.
the game.
Yeah, maybe that's enough then. Maybe that one game is enough.
Yeah.
So I just can't see him
His
starting.
talent is phenomenal, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
his impacts that he's had on games, and I hear everything you're saying about it. I actually think he'd be brilliant coming off the bench and adding that energy.
Yeah,
with
great
a couple of
shout.
players as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, ultimately he's done stuff that no other back row has done this year.
Absolutely, and not even close to it. Nobody's done anything like that in years.
Yeah.
The impact he's had bursting onto the scene, but not just bursting onto the scene, the manner of which he's controlling games, dictating games, winning games, through jackals or through incredible scores, or
and controlling the narrative of the games as well. Like you look at the
100%.
emotion of the final with Bordeaux. Everything at the aftermath of that game was Henry Pollock.
So mate, he must have a great agent.
unbelievable. Yeah, I haven't seen anything like him in a very long time.
It is exciting, and
I just fancy him to rip up training. You see, he strikes me as one of these guys who is 100% on everything. And I fancy him to bring his form to training and leave the selectors in no doubt.
That was a bit like you at training, right?
Yeah. Hated training. Hated it.
Let's go through the backs then.
So then into the backs, I have Jamieson, Gibson Park and Finn Russell. Nice combination there. Yeah, Jamieson's pass selection and quality, giving Finn early ball. I think he'll let loose then. And that's when you see the best of Finn Russell, with somebody with the pass quality of Gibson Park.
Same hairdo as well.
Same hair, yeah. He's gone for the Zebo fade. And in the centre, I have Tuipolatu and Gary Ringrose. I was close to putting Hugh Jones in there, just with the combination with Tuipolatu and the familiarity, but I think Gary's knowledge of how Andy plays the game, the shape that Ireland run, and I fancy he'll have a big tour. And I have James Lowe, Tommy Freeman and Blair Kinghorn in the back three. Dangerous back three, counter-attacking back three, but a strong physical back three as well that can also dominate the skies. So that's my team. Obviously, one or two question marks, but
that comment on dominating the skies is key, isn't it? We've seen how important that is in the game now. We've seen Freeman above his head.
Exactly.
James Lowe's wicked under the high
brilliant
ball
in the air as well, yeah.
And Blair Kinghorn, although he hasn't played for a while now with injury, I think everything that we saw in the Six Nations.
Oh, he's a magnificent player. Counter-attack. He's a second ball player as well. But he properly counter-attacks. He's he's the only fullback there, maybe, that I think counter-attacks the right way. Not going into the middle of the park trying to play set-up rugby for the next phase. He sees the space, he goes for it, and that's the way a real counter-attack is done, and that's the way my back three is going to operate, I'd imagine. So hopefully they play
good
team.
Quick team.
All out attack.
No
Forget
line
the
out.
line out. No line out.
No line out, but Tyburn the shortest second row ever as well. But Marrow will have a big job to do with the line out. But it's a good team.
I like it.
That's a ball-playing team.
Like one Welshman as well.
Yeah, aye.
It's not one in there.
A bit of grit. Jack.
Sorry, I thought it was a bit of a tick.
Yeah.
Tick or grit?
No.
Grit.
Jack Morgan. I'm a big fan of Jack. My goodness.
Again, he's not won a game at test level. Like I'm not being harsh.
Yeah.
But I get it. I understand the Jack Morgan thing. He's brilliant by all accounts. Brilliant captain. Same as Thomas Williams gets Player of the Season for the Premiership. But I'm like, these lads are in losing teams. Like, I don't know how you can...
But it's not tennis, do you know what I mean? So, like, it's not his fault if the other players around him are useless.
No, don't... mate, you can't change your tune on that. You can't... mate, Warren Gatland said, right, I'm not taking losers. That's why he didn't take any Scots, or he took the 2 token gestures in 2013. And now you're saying it's not tennis. Gats, it ain't tennis, bro. All right, this ain't tennis.
There's a grudge there.
There is a grudge there.
Anyway. It's a good team. Quick, elusive, a bit of power up front.
Yeah.
Just no line out. So.
Just no line out. Sorry about that.
Right, my starting test 15, similar to yours, Zebes.
Yes.
A couple of differences. I've got Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, and Will Stewart in the front row. Porter, the battle with him and Genge. I think Genge will be brilliant coming off the bench and adding some energy and value, doing it that way. Porter's, he's a test match animal, isn't he? And get the scrum dominance. Dan Sheehan picks himself, and I think Will Stewart. Ordinarily, a lot of people would go Tyg Furlong, but he's been injured. There's been question marks over, how fit is he off the back of these injuries. So I think Will Stewart, his Six Nations, he was, in my opinion, it sounds weird saying this, he was one of England's best players and most consistent players in the Six Nations as a tight head prop. So he's got a bit of footwork as well if he needs to, but strong in the scrum, bit of grunt as well, and I think he deserves to start in the Test series. Second rows, I've gone for 2 Englishmen in the second rows. Obviously Marrow, the captain, but then Ollie Chesham, I think he's come back from his injury. Back end of the Six Nations, he's physical, he's rocked up for Leicester, and Jim will know this more about second rows, but I think he's the complete second row. Carries well, he's hard in defence, hits rucks, great on line out options, which we're going to need, and then mauling to the cowsheds and back. I think he's your ultimate second row for me in terms of his ability.
I've got him in my team as well.
Really?
And it's interesting you said that. Mate, for me, he has stepped up. So you got capped quite early, and I was like, you can see a bit of potential, quite raw. physicality through the roof, mate.
Yeah.
You have a look at his collisions,
Yeah.
line speed. He's always on the charge down boot, always putting pressure on that. And then you've got like the fundamentals of what a second row needs, right? So line out defence, maul defence. Like he is an old school but new school second row.
like that,
and I think like when you're travelling to a place like Australia, they're much better in the set piece. You need someone in there that you know you're going to get an 8 out of 10 performance. So if he was around a 7 before his injury, what he's done the last few weeks, and for England as well in the Six Nations, he's up there at 8.5 every week. Like I'm big on this lad at the minute, and I'm saying I'll put Ollie Chesham in there in the second.
Scott Cummings, no?
Yeah, he's all right. He's all right.
All right,
he's good.
Only all right.
Only all
No,
right.
4 years ago, I had him down to go.
Really?
So
Yeah.
now it wasn't a surprise for me, Scott Cummins being in the squad. Yeah, ahead of Grant Gilchrist. I thought Grant Gilchrist has been the standout second row for Scotland, but there's something in Scott Cummins where he's got a bit of power around the carry, a bit of dynamism. He's got a bit of dynamism about him, but yeah, I don't know. But for me, Maritoji, same as you, Ollie Chesham. Not stand out because I've gone for the same 6 as you. But this is yours. Sorry.
Yeah. I've gone Tyburn at 6, which I know he prefers playing 6 personally, but he just gets shoved in the second row a lot.
Yes,
but,
he does.
I've gone for that as an extra line-out option. You know, I know Joe Schmidt loves his kind of set-piece battle, so our line-out has got to be spot on. And that, with him at 6, he's a great ball carrier. He's an absolute workhorse. Yeah. And then while he isn't an X-factor 6 in the Henry Pollock, kind of Tom Curry, Ben Earl, that kind of player, I think that he is someone that will work hard for you, will carry big in those wide channels, and has, you know, that ability to dominate and really help our set piece line out go well. But also really smart footballer as well. So he can play the ball out the back. He's got great hands, good footwork, and he's a bit of a dog as well, isn't he? So
he is.
As a 6, I think he's there. 7 was really close between Curry and Van der Fleer, and Pollock as well, between the three of them. But I've just gone with Van der Fleer, his experience, obviously the relationship he's got with Andy Farrell, and the fact that, you know, there's a few other Irish players in there. Jack Conan I've picked at 8. I think you need a big, gnarly ball carrier in 8. They've got big ball carriers. Wilson's massive for them. Their skipper at number 8. So I've gone Jack Conan for us. He looks like an old warhorse, doesn't he? He's got great tash.
Yeah.
Looks a bit of an old school player, but you watch him play, he carries big over the gain line.
Very good
and he's thick set, so he's going to suck in 3 or 4 defenders.
And proven.
Yeah, proven. I think he was the starting test 8 in the last tour.
Yeah.
And one of the best players on that tour as well, I think. So, and that was going up against South Africans. So I think it would suit him in Australia. I picked a bench where you can have Henry Pollock and Tom Curry. So you can tell Van der Fleer, go and bust yourself for 50 minutes, because then we've got Tom Curry coming on.
Yeah, wow.
And you can interchange those, right? So I think that'd be good. And then you've got Henry Pollock coming off the bench for me, who, when Jack Conan's emptied the tank, you've then got an X-factor player coming on to find tired defenders and cut lines and make holes. Backline, Gibson Park at 9 and Finn Russell at 10. Pick themselves for me at the minute. I'd be surprised if that wasn't the starting 9-10. Finn Russell has shown over the last sort of 6 months that he's still got Finn's ability, but he's also got so much control as well. And we saw in the Challenge Cup final, you know, he was kicking the corners and playing the percentages, which from outside of people that know him, people wouldn't expect that of Finn. But he can manage a game as well as anyone, I think, and he's got that ability to get a backline going like no one else, I think, on tour. So Finn picks himself. Backs, outside of that, centres, I agree with you, my friend.
You do? Your whole backline?
Sione, Tuipulotu and Gary Ringrose in the centres. It was really close between Hugh Jones. He's been injured the last few weeks. Gary Ringrose, defensively,
beast.
He goes and ends people, doesn't he? Spots attackers, just goes and hits them, and shuts defences down. But also he's got great outside break and footwork and hands as well. So love Gary Ringrose. Can't wait to see Tuipulotu back. We saw the try that he scored against Leinster in the semi-final. He's got great footwork.
Oh, unbelievable.
He's got the complete game when he's fully fit. He's got a kicking game that he can put kicks through as well. So really can't wait to watch him play. And then wingers, Tommy Freeman and James Lowe. Great high ball ability. Tommy Freeman scores tries for fun. Like, he's a big unit, isn't he? Gets through defenders. But also him and James Lowe, proper finishers. And it was close. Like, you can have Mac Hansen in there. you know, a couple of the other wingers, but I think those two stand above everyone else in terms of what they've done on the field. The left foot out of James Lowe as well gives you a great option exiting, but also you know, some cute attacking plays where you can use that. So obviously James Lowe back in great form. And then fullback Blair Kinghorn, agree with you, Zeebs. Quality operator, high ball, which is going to be key. He's great under, but the counter-attacking threat, the meters he made in Six Nations, you know, every time he touches the ball, he's making things happen from fullback, which you want to see. It was close between him and Hugo Keenan. You know, Hugo Keenan, obviously Ireland's favourite fullback, but since you've packed in.
Yes, sir.
But then it's, you look at it and, you know, Blair Kinghorn is, look at the meters he's made, nearly double the next best in the Six Nations, and that, you know, speaks volumes really. So over double actually, or nearly double when I'm doing my maths.
Good maths.
But it's one of those things where when you see him attacking ball in hand, he's a threat every time he touches it, so you want that X factor at fullback, but also he's got the solidity of being great under the high ball and understanding the game as well. So
great passer and kicker as well.
And can be eyes and ears for Finn Russell when he needs to be, and then hit the line, boom, in the way he needs. So good team, I think.
Very good team.
Happy with that team.
Very
excellent
good team.
backline.
We're all going to be very similar. Right, my starting 15 for the Irish Lions series. The British and Irish Lions tour. So I've not gone for Andrew Porter at 1, which some people be thinking. I think there's a small crack in his game around scrums.
I was about to say,
and that's there. Whether or not we want to believe that or not, that I think that is a little bit problematic. And I think once the game unfolds a little bit, and the scrum doesn't, obviously it is important. We've seen that in big games, but the stuff around the referee and trying to implement their style on the game, I just think with Andrew Porter and his history there, it's potentially been a little bit of a problem. And also, I think with Ellis Genge, when I look at the pack that you guys have picked and that I'm looking at as well, I'm thinking, who are the out-and-out leaders of conversation and emotional drivers? And you look at Ellis Genge, like he's got that in abundance. When he's been captain of Bristol, or he's been captain of England back in the day, or you see any clips of him in the changing rooms and stuff like that, rallying the troops. Maratoji's a quiet captain. I think Ellis Genge has that emotional driver, which will get him through to 50 minutes, and you bring on a world-class talent like Andrew Porter. So it's between them two. Dan Sheehan speaks for himself. Will Stewart, I agree. I did have Furlong in there, Ty Furlong to start with, but same reason Goody said, just with the injury profile and stuff like that. If you were to look at form tight heads in the world, he's probably top 2 or 3, probably top 2. Second row is the same as well, that England combination. I gave my thoughts on Ollie Chesham. I think he's a brilliant player. He's in form, banging form, and is like the complete lock. I've gone for Tom Curry at 7. Not much between him and Josh van der Fleer, apart from one small thing. I think Tom Curry's stopping power at the gain line, the out-and-out physicality on the gain line. And we know Australia, how they want to play, the quick game, the speed of ball that they get at the breakdown. The breakdown's naturally going to be key. You've Tom Curry, Josh van der Fleer, Henry Pollock, whoever you put in that position there, they're all good over the breakdown. But his physicality, if he can get his body right, and injuries has been a big issue of his over the last year, 18 months. But I think he is an absolute phenomenon.
The only thing that I would say, why I would have Josh ahead of him is in the shapes, those 3-man shapes that they run off 9. How comfortable Josh is being the middle guy with his hand up.
Great point.
And his sweep passing, his tip on, his no-look passes left and right, and how he attacks the line. That's a huge part on how the Lions will play. Yeah. And the way Josh runs them, if you watch them, I've seen Tom Curry throw those sweep passes well in the English shape, which is different, and he's turning his back a lot, you know, and not staying square, you know, little things like that. If he can sort out, I agree, he'll probably play. But Josh is definitely ahead at the minute in those little facets of the game. Yeah,
and that's one thing, actually, look at my back 5. It's pretty straight up and down. There's not much deception. A bit like myself. Straight up, straight down. So there isn't a huge amount of deception. It is like it says on the tin. And I think with number 8, with Jack Conan, who else is there? Like we were chatting about it. Like I think they're struggling a little bit for an out-and-out 8. So everyone's going to be doubling down on him if they don't already, or they haven't already called up another number 8 to fill that void. But yeah, I've gone a little bit old school, a little bit of emotion with Ellis Genge. I'm a massive Andrew Porter fan. Took him off the bench.
There we go. Good, decent pack.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Backs are the same as ours.
Well, backs, apart from Hugh Jones at 13.
Oh, sorry, Hugh.
Yeah, and I get the Gary Ringrose thing. I was unsure whether he was going to go. I made a ridiculous statement. I've made a few ridiculous statements that I didn't think Gary Ringrose would go, but that was foolish of me. But I've not picked him in my starting 15. I just think the relationship of Finn, Sione Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones, just with Scotland's attack and everything that they've shown, and they've been brilliant, haven't they? And Hugh Jones, yes, he's been injured the last couple of weeks. I don't know what the speed stats would show between him and Ringrose, but yeah, there's just something about Hugh Jones where it feels like he's ready. But it's nothing between him and Ringrose. Maybe the physicality of Ringrose.
That's the only thing. The only thing I think about is the physicality, because the centres that Australia have got, you know, in Ikitau and those sort of guys. You know, if Sammy Creevy comes back as well, I just think that's why Ringrose gets ahead of him. But
it depends what they want to do.
Attacking wise,
yeah, it depends what they want to do. Attack. If they want to get into the outside channel, and again, it's a very superficial line, that overs line that he's got, and that relationship he's got with Finn, and his ability in contact, and you could look through videos of Hugh Jones, like he's a worldie when it comes to attack. He carves up.
I agree, he's a brilliant player. Like his one-on-one ability, footwork, speed, he is class. He's a great fend as well, but the only thing for me is when the ball enters his channel, it dies there. He's not a great distributor, and he doesn't give the speed on the outside a lot of opportunity.
He's making breaks, he doesn't need to.
But there you go. My thing is, and that comes onto the back
I don't know,
three.
yeah, like if I was Australia and I see him get the ball, I know he's not passing, and I just stick on him.
Okay, it's the Scotland thing.
You know, it's not, no, he's a brilliant player, but I'm telling you, check the stats.
Okay,
show me his highlight reel and show me how many passes are in his highlight reel.
This is a winger talking about.
Yeah, I know. Gary used to be like that as well. Ball used to always die. I used to love playing outside Gary, but he evolved and let the ball do the work at times. And I just see Hugh as a brilliant athlete, but the ball dies in his channel a lot. Watch how many passes he throws.
Maybe there's one other thing in this then, and it's the subconscious in me. When I look at Tommy Freeman and James Lowe, I don't think out and out gas.
No,
I think
Freeman's a lot quicker than you give him
he's
credit.
deceptively quick.
Which we spoke about. I didn't realise how quick he was until
James Lowe.
Some of the big games.
I hear you.
But they're the complete wingers, right? So the aerial ability, the kicking game, the understanding of the game, the positioning, all of these things. But when you look at James Lowe and Tommy Freeman, you don't think wheels. Whereas I look at Hugh Jones, I think out and out pace. Yeah. And I think maybe, because look, it comes down to Blair Kinghorn as well. I've spoken about him, stats are off the charts, but how fit is he? And actually, so you look at the positions, if the Lions are thin at 8, they're probably thin at 15 as well, with Hugo Keane and Blair Kinghorn with their injury profile in the lead up to the tour. Is
You might see Freddie Stewart get called up.
I don't think so. With Sione in the centre as well, which I agree he'll be there. Yeah, he's going to be asked to do a lot of the carrying, a lot of that physical attribute, show off your athletic ability, get us gain line. I think he won't be asked to be the distributor of the centres. So if you're relying on Hugh Jones to be the distributor, or if he's not going to be, then you're asking Finn to throw a double skip pass. He can, but
it might get red.
In a test match, in a Lions test match, I think you will get found out. That's only if you're asked. Sione can distribute, but if you're putting the two of them in there, I don't see the wingers getting a lot of ball.
I could see Sione and Bundy. I nearly went for that.
I nearly went for that.
I nearly went for 12 Bundy, 13 Sione.
That's matching what the Australians have got.
Yeah.
I think. It depends on Suat Aliti as well, doesn't it? Whether he's fullback or 13. But they have got some monsters in the centres. Of course. And so you can argue for Bundy and Tuipulotu, but then you're worried about getting wheels on the outside potentially. Yeah.
Because would they put Bundy on the bench? Would they go 6-2, 5-3? Would you have Bundy within that mix on the bench? I just think Bundy's too good to leave out. Zeev thinks he's too old.
Yeah, I mean, he does a job, right? Bundy does a job. I do think, obviously, this is going to be his last tour, and he has.
Say it.
Sione Tuipulotu is a better player than Bundy Aki, but with similar attributes, right? Bundy 4 years ago was the best player, or even 2 years ago was the best player in his position probably in the world. But and maybe he's got that in him to come out and you know, show that on the tour and compete with Tuipulotu. Of course, that's what he's going to have in his mind. But ultimately, you know, I think there's other more like physical players that can come off the bench. Although Bundy did have big impacts off the bench, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So I mean, the bench selection, it's always that argument: 6'2", 5'3". If you go in 6'2", you need players that are flexible. And, you know, with Blair Kinghorn at fullback, do you say we don't need a 10 on the bench?
Or you put Marcus.
You could put Marcus who can cover, you know, 10, 15, possibly 13. Elliot Daly comes into the mix, is what he does. But yeah, I hear you. You know, you could argue for Test 2 potentially. If we're 1-0 up, let's just go with the big lads and blitz them off the field, and then you know, Bundy and
Bundy.
Sione.
That would be great, yeah.
But is that going away from necessarily the way Faz wants to play?
So hard.
Yeah.
So hard.
But that's the argument, isn't it? It's great
hard.
players, and it is very close between who to pick. But we've agreed on a fair few.